friends. Reverend Seth Naicker is a reconciliation entrepreneur. He goes about making a difference through speaking, writing, and learning. He makes impact amongst his family, faith, and beloved community. The work of reconciliation is made a reality, and beloved community is grounded and founded through Seth's creative interventions, social change, and transformation initiatives. So I want to recommend that we all buckle up and sit on the edge of our seats and be quite active during the next hour. Seth is an associate at Heartlines for over 10 years. He's a minister at the Uniting Reformed Church of South Africa via Christi Community Church, and he also does ministry at Church Out of the Box. Seth is married. You can see the picture of the family at the bottom. Seth is married to Marisha, and together they have 4 children, and they are living in LA, but that's not Los Angeles, but Lower Alberton. Seth, a hearty word of welcome to you this morning, and we are ready to be blessed by you and by your presence and your input. Over to you.
Good morning, goeiemôre, Sunny Bonani, hola hete, wat sê, was get up? Is allemaal okay this morning? I can see JR, Nieuwenhuizen en Ring O. Hulle lyk so pragtig daar met al die koffie en die as die koeksisters en what else het julle daar? Okay, they look like a crew. They look like they're having fun. So good morning to you all, and it's lovely to be with you. It's been an awesome roadshow. We're on the roadshow of the Eastern Cape Synod, and I'm grateful to know Reverend Danny Moten, who we've been working together over the last month and a half preparing for this, and it's just a blessing to be with you this morning. So right at the get-go, before I spoil the rest of the day, we need to get your beautiful smiles on. So if you've already switched off your video, come back. Jacob Botha, Ben and Sanat van Tonder, Jasper. Yes, there he is. Look at Jasper. There he is. And the internet is even working. Devalt, we know you did the devotion and then you went away. But if you can, please try and switch on your video. And David Higgs and Janida van der Westhuizen. And look at that, Ben and Sanat van Toner, he's got his best friend right there. So this is going on the website or the Facebook page of the Eastern Cape Synod. So you better bring your Marius Blichnoot and Van Gerber. Bring your best smile. They're gonna show the world of the Eastern Cape in this ring of ministers. Are we ready? Are we ready, everybody? Bring on your smiles. Franz and Ferreira family. Okay, I guess that works because they got a picture there. Okay, so let me just give it like 30 seconds. If you can, please switch on your videos. The other colleagues, if you are able to. Jacob Botha, get your camera closer to your face. We love your bookshelf, but they want to see their minister. Yes, of the Dutch Reformed Church from wherever. There's David Higgs with the ocean behind him. Hi, guys, we are behind David Higgs. You see, he's into the technological world. Okay, here we go. The smiles are coming on. And now I'm like your photographer. It's like they brought me from wherever just to be a photographer. Are we ready? Big smiles, everybody. Let me hear you say, mutton curry. Can you say mutton curry and hold the curry, okay? Hold the curry. 1, 2, 3. Mutton curry. Hey! Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you very much. So the next thing that we want to do this morning, which I've really been enjoying, I know that Afrikaans is such a holy, beautiful African language. Can I get an amen? Can I get an amen this morning? Ingrid, I heard that. I heard that whisper with your mic muted. You said the amen. So there we go. I'm putting in a little Afrikaans liedjie, and it's a song. It's in the chat box, and it's a song by a colleague of mine, Julian Manuel, and he worked with Vision X as a part of the discipleship training school. And this morning, just to warm up our hearts before we get into any formal presentation, I know for some of you, you've traveled a long way, and for some of you, you're struggling with, this internet life of being on Zoom. But is it okay if we just worship the Lord together as a community? Can we do that together? So I'm going to teach you a song together. If you've never heard it before, you can keep your mics muted because the timing will throw us off. But let's sing this beautiful chorus as an act of praise and worship, as a part of today's roadshow on the 21st of April, right here in the Eastern Cape Synod of the Dutch Reformed Church. Let's sing together. Hey, us on vriend. Hey, us ons Vader, wie ons nie verdien, maar hy is daar, as ons tot hom nader. Can we try that together from the top? Hey, is ons vriend. Sing, hey, is ons Vader. Hey, is ons Vader. Wie ons nie verdien, maar hy is daar, as ons tot hom nader. It changes up here a bit, so we'll sing it like this. Hy is ons koning, hy is ons leidsman, die een wie ons noem Vader en Heer, rots van die eeuwe, blinkmore ster. Hy is die een wie altyd terugkeer. Let's try that again. Hy is ons koning, hy is ons leidsman. Sing along. Hy is ons koning, hy is ons leidsman, die een wie ons noem Vader en Here, rots van die eeuwe, blinkmore ster. Hy is die een wie altyd regeer. Now I know sometimes ministry can be hard. Sometimes COVID-19 has got us down. Some of our family members have passed on, but we sing in a declaration of hope this morning. Let's sing together. Hey, hy is ons vriend. Oh, hy is ons Vader. Ons nie verdien, maar hy is daar, as ons tot hom nader. Sing, hy is ons koning, hy is ons leidsman. Hy is ons koning, hy is ons leidsman, die een wie ons noem Vader en Heer, rots van die eeuwe, blinkmore ster. Hy is die een wie altyd regeer. Hy is die een wie altyd regeer. Amen. I hope that it blessed you this morning. Plus, I get to practice my Afrikaans. Oom Marius, oom Van, hoe het ek gedoen? Was die liedjie okay? I got a thumbs up. Hallelujah. Means my Afrikaans is getting better. All praise to the Lord this morning, brothers and sisters. It's so awesome to be with you. Thank you just for this beautiful time of connecting. And as we do this morning, as I go, let me just prep you. Those of you that have responses, we're going to be using a bit of the chat box, and you can also save the chat as a part of the presentation. So it won't be a death by PowerPoint. I'll go into presentation mode, and then we'll come and reflect together. And in the reflections, we'll use the chat box. So let's begin to practice. Down at the bottom of your screens, Now I know that for some of you, you are sitting and watching the screen and there's a laptop somewhere. So one of your colleagues over there will have to get close to the laptop and be typing fast. So let's go to the chat box. Just say your name. I know some of us have already said the city. Put the city in, but what keeps you busy, or what keeps you passionate, or what is your problem? Because sometimes what keeps us busy is our passion, or what keeps us busy is our problem. Wherever you're at, your name, the city you're in, the passion, the problem that you are addressing. Let's just hit it in there right now into the chat box. So I'll put it as well. My name is Seth. You know I'm from LA, and you know now that that's Lower Alberton. I'll put there my church, Via Christi. That's the community I'm serving. And what's my problem or my passion? It's becoming my passion now to deal with becoming something that I'm having to deal with as a minister, working with our team, dealing with some stuff that is happening in our community. David Jetsri Bay, passie families. Yes. Woord verkondiging. Thank you. Huwelike en toerusting. Thank you for your responses. Yaku Miskend, passie and hoop. Praise the Lord. Thank you for those responses. Willem from Tsitsikama. Hey, the only time, Willem, where's Willem? Willem, I need to be your best friend, because when I think Tsitsikama, I think a lekker holiday. Tsitsikama, visiting people. In fact, I wouldn't mind if Danny told me, Seth, let's fly the entire Synod to Tsitsikama for the next meeting. And we get down. But thank you for your responses there. Om te dien, to take care of. Amen. That is our passion. All right. So there we go already. We're using the chat box. So we're going to be doing a bit of that. Now let me cross over to some screen share. And in the screen share, just make sure that your volumes are up, because we're going to be, at times, I'll just ask Danny, Danny, if you can please allow me to do a screen share. It needs you to enable me to do so. And as soon as he's done that, then I will be able to cross over into presentation.
You can.
All right. There we go. Thank you so much. Thank you, Danny, for allowing me screen sharing possibilities. And there we go with the presentation. Okay, let's get into this. So here we have Heartlines. Some of you already know Heartlines, because with your Synod, the Synod has already invested in some time working with us on the previous campaign that went throughout the country called What's Your Story? And we're really grateful today to be on this roadshow presenting to you what is the beginnings of a new campaign. We're already on radio. We started some research. We're having some focus groups. And praise the Lord, this is one of the first synodical meetings that we are attending to present the Heartlines, hashtag Fathers Matter. And right there, Danny can put it into the chat and you can click on it later, is the online resource. So if you want to take out some research from the Heartlines research that has been done, you can gain some stories, some advice, some videos already that are already locked and loaded online. And you can find that at that link at projects.heartlines.org.za, stroke Fathers Matter, and that's where you can get the information. And if you remember, Fathers Matter is a Heartlines project to support the positive role of men in the lives of children. Let's continue. Here you can see an image. It's just an honor to be on this roadshow with the Eastern Cape Synod. And yes, hosted by our own Reverend Danny Moten. And today, by way of a title shot, think upon it as Fathers Matter cause they actually do. Now, I know we've got some women folk as well, and we don't want to dislocate you from the presentation. But I think all of us, somewhere, somehow, even if we had our father with us or not, there might have been a father that was a father figure, even if our biological father was not. But please say with me, by way of the title shot, Fathers Matter cause they actually do. Can we say that together? Fathers matter because they actually do. All right? Thank you. And keep that in your mind. And then lastly, the piece that we say, taking the Fathers Matter conversation further. And so it's a great honor to be with you all. And as we do so, it's really a conversational presentation that we think about it, we reflect on it, and see how we can participate in taking this body of knowledge, this focus area that we want to become a national and international campaign for us to do the work of healing our land, healing our families, healing our communities. Heartlines presents the Fathers Matter content as an edutainment initiative. As we build this project, it's an edutainment initiative promoting the positive and active role of men in the lives of children in order to mitigate the risks associated with uninvolved fathers or men. Now, I'd like you to think upon it right now, right here. You are pastors in your community. You are ministers in your church. I wonder if you ever ask the question, where are our men folk at? Are they involved? Are they present? Are they engaging? What is going on in their lives? And so, dear brothers and sisters, we are hoping that this edutainment project, where we use video and online resources and a feature film, will capture the imaginations of our people, of our communities, but also our fathers and men, where we can start to deal with the risks that are associated when fathers and men are not involved in bringing assistance, in coming alongside their children, in coming alongside their wives, or coming alongside their partners. Now, it's always good to make things personal. Any of you have an awesome father that you can say, thank the Lord for my dad? Anybody can give a digital response with a thumbs up, or just a hand clap of praise to say, man, I thank the Lord for my dad. Well, if you can, thank you, Danny. Danny can. I also want to say to you that I'm grateful to God for my dad. And there he is standing, David Naicker. I think he's quite handsome. I'd like to say that I'm handsome like him. But as I think of my dad, there's some amazing things that he did. He was present. One of the most important things that he did was to be present with me. There could have been complications with work and so on. And for a certain time in our lives, we were separated because he had to work away from us. But I was so grateful that they closed that gap as soon as possible. Both him and my mom were aware that it would be better for us to grow up with them than to grow up away. And so every one of us have a father or a father figure. And in the Heartlines work, we talk about fathers or social fathers or spiritual fathers or church-based fathers. For some of you that are domineers and ministers, one of your key deliveries in ministry is you come alongside a community where they might be hurting and lacking in resources, but your presence as a parent, your presence as a father comes alongside your community and you are there. For some of you, it's as a parent, as a mother. Those of you that are ministers and you are women and working in your congregations, or couples that are working together, you come alongside as parents. In an interesting way, even though Marisha and I are younger ministers that are working today, I know that my gray hair might say, hey, Seth, that you don't look so young anymore. But by and large, I'm serving a church where all of the ministers prior to us were all in their late 50s. We came into ministry into this church in our early 40s. And you can imagine now we're having to pastor people that are 25 years, 30 years, sometimes even 40 years older than we are. But we are given a role to connect with them. So Fathers Matter, because they actually do for me, gets back to my personal point of view. It's right there with my dad. It's right there with my community. It's right there in my family. Here's a little statement that comes out of the research. And online, you can read the whole research, okay? But for the purposes of us being together this morning, let's take this quote and reflect on it together. Globally and in South Africa, there is a lack of awareness and understanding of the importance of fathers being positively present and involved in their children's lives. Let's hear it again. Globally and in South Africa, there is a lack of awareness and understanding of the importance of fathers being positively present and involved in their children's lives. Now take a moment and reflect on that. And as you do, please go to the chat box as to what comes up in your mind when you read this statement. when you reflect on it, when you think of it from your community, from your church, in your mindset, in your viewpoint. Let's take a moment to put this out right now. Some reflections as we think upon this quote that comes to us from the Heartlines Fathers Matter research report. Globally and in South Africa, there is a lack of awareness and understanding of the importance of fathers being positively present and involved in their children's lives. Let's make that chat box work as we give some feedback from our thoughts and our views as to what does the statement mean for us? What does it make us think about? How are we reflecting on it in our communities? Please let's take a time to hit the chat box right now. So I put in my reflection as well. We've got Waarheid from David Higgs. We've got Weisheid from Jacob Watha. Please feel free to put a few more words in the chat, because as you're reflecting, we're tapping into your knowledge, we're tapping into your mind, we're tapping into your pastoral heart. Echtheid, please add in. And I put in there from my side, we don't think about it or talk about it enough. We just accept that they're not there. For many of us, we go to church on Sunday mornings, and the lack of their presence is not even considered anymore because it's become tradition. We'll see some men, but we'll see a lot more younger boys and girls and youth. But if fathers are not there, we just go on with life. It's become a custom. And so I put my reflection. Anyone else, please add it to the chat box as we reflect. The role of fathers is underestimated. Thank you, Ben and Sanet van Tonner. It's underestimated. We can complain about it. Some of us complain about it, but we never really give it some time to think upon it from this place of focusing on it so we can see things change. How do we engage it? How do we start to liefde vir God en natuur? Yes, this love of God and nature connections. And I hope that for sometimes, we can start beginning to think about how we connect our fathers to a way of worship, to a way of connecting to God that might be, out of the box, if you like. It might be countercultural. It might be not the way that we used to do things, so that we can actually start focusing on why aren't they present and where are they if they're not with us. Nico, respect for God and mense and natuur. Okay, so you guys are bringing that forward as your reflections. Thank you, Nico. Thank you, jury. And thank you for your reflections. As they come, let's continue to use the chat box as you reflect, so that it's not just me speaking, but you are also reflecting as we are speaking. Thank you for your beautiful reflections. Now, here's a video that we're about to watch, and this is the promo video that will anchor the campaign that will go throughout the country. And in there, there's a picture of my dad playing the guitar, but it's a picture, it captures in a 4-minute telling of different people telling of their fathers. And let's watch this. And as you watch it, I'd like you to think about what catches your attention, what becomes more apparent to you, okay? So the question would be, what catches your attention? What messaging gets to your heart, okay? What messaging from here gets to your heart? So that's the question I'd like you to reflect on. And if it pops up as you're watching, you're welcome to hit the chat box. So let me go to that video right now. If somebody just let me know if the sound is coming through, you can give me a thumbs up, Nico, I can see you. Thank you, Johnny.
Becoming a father. Wow.
My memories from that time are kind of just hazy bliss.
An average African man does not go to the delivery ward. I must say it was an amazing moment for me. In fact, my son was not ready to come out until I came.
Raising a child is not like easy as you see when you see it maybe on television and all that.
My dad never misses an opportunity to say, you're gorgeous, you're intelligent, you are everything in a bag of chips. Having my dad around was so important because he taught me what I'm worth from the perspective of a male.
My heart was broken for the first time. I spoke to my dad about it, gave me advice.
Fatherhood is less about doing, it's also a lot more about being.
He has given me a lot of strength.
My grandpa is very nice and I love him and he's in heaven.
A lot of the qualities and values that are embedded in me today came from mom and my dad. So if I play the guitar, my dad actually plays the guitar.
I like to play music with him.
I'm a good footballer, or I think I am.
We win against him. I'm scared of going alone at the shops. Daddy, don't leave me. He takes us to fun places.
It's a great joy to be a grandparent. It's fighting on the bed, it's running around the house.
When he's sleeping, I just bang him on the bum with a pillow.
I try to change things. I want the best for my kids.
I live with my mom, granny, and that's it.
My father was not in the picture because when things ended between him and my mom, went and got married. So he had a whole family of his own. He had made no efforts to try and find me. You know, was I not worthy of being found?
My sister and I grew up with my mother, and my brother, he was with us until primary school, and then he went to go live with my father.
At the age of 15, my family basically exploded. As an intimate, ongoing presence, he disappeared from my life at that point.
My father being present in my life, no ways. I don't even know him.
My dad, he spent much of his time in Johannesburg seeking for a job. I was still young when he moved from Venda to Johannesburg. He struggled to get a job.
Luckily enough, unlike some of my siblings, I was introduced to my father. He would come to the yard, say hello, and that was it.
In the work that I do with offenders, you can see that there's a huge gap that is missing. Like you see that a father figure is needed for them to be better persons.
I don't remember much of my childhood, and I think it's mainly because my mum died when I was about 5 and a half. Yeah, I think I was 12 when my dad got remarried, and that's when things got really rocky.
I was pretty convinced that all families were doomed to failure.
When he was born, it was an amazing moment of being there in the delivery ward, seeing him come into the world. Why would a father abandon their own seed like that? Such a beautiful miracle.
My mother was overseas for most of my childhood, so my dad basically became my primary caregiver.
We had an awful 3-year period where my dad and I didn't speak to each other. The thing I learned about that is it's never too late to rebuild relationships that are damaged or broken.
I'm still making peace now. I mean, I have a wonderful husband with 2 children, and I watch my daughter and how she is with her father, and that is part of making peace for me.
My dad he's a life changer.
God, thank you for the opportunity and the privilege of being a father.
If I could be a 10th of what my father was, I'll probably be the best father in the world.
Well, I love this video on a whole level of, on a whole different level and different ways. It always catches my attention now. Every time I watch it, different parts catch my attention. But what has caught your attention as you've watched it for the first time, and what messages gets to your heart, or what messaging gets to your heart? Please share with us your reflections, and let's make that chat box work for us right now, okay? So as you're reflecting, and I know that for some of you, you have a lot more than one person at the the meeting. So please try and cater, and let's take a moment or two. Let's take a minute for our reflections. What, as we've watched from a marketing comms point of view, from a point of view of mobilizing and messaging across the country, what has caught your attention? So please get your fingers busy, and let's get some amazing feedback from the ministers and ministry partners of the Eastern Cape. Ben and Sanet, there's a lot of pain because of absent fathers. 'n Pa leer jou waarde so belangrik. Thank you, dear colleagues. Thank you. I think somebody took my presentation mode off, but that's okay. So let's continue and get some reflections. Ouers is so belangrik in die vorming van kinders, se begrip van wie God is as ouer. Yes, as a parent. Thank you, Marius and Fan, for bringing in your reflections. I see either one there busy reflecting. And our coffee crew is also sending in some reflections. Beautiful. 'n Pa gee veiligheid en geborgenheid. Thank you so much. Onverstaanbaar from Marius Blighout, dat vaders afwesig kan wees, tog is dit 'n werklikheid. Thank you so much for that responses. Vaders is onmisbaar. So by way of a show, I hope that this messaging has got your blessing. Can we get a thumbs up, a digital thumbs up? Are you happy with the product we've come up with, and can you see yourselves making use of it? So there's my love sign. I love the video. I can give some hand claps. I can even throw some confetti, so we can make this work. Okay, so let's continue on then. Thank you for these beautiful responses. They are helpful, and we are learning as we go, not just me speaking, but every one of us learning together. So from that video, here are some insights, and I'm focusing on one of the lines of communication when it comes to the Fathers Matter research report, and have a look at this. Say with me, no money, no daddy. Hashtag no money, no daddy. And the formative research highlighted that being able to provide, above all else, defined fatherhood and participation as a father to be able to provide. A father needed to be employed. Okay, so if the father wasn't providing, or if the father was employing, no money, no daddy. For participants of all racial and socioeconomic backgrounds. So if I was in Johannesburg, I'll say this is not only for the fathers in Alex, but it's also for the fathers in Sandton. If I was in KwaZulu-Natal, I'd say it's not only for the fathers in Phoenix, but it's also for the fathers in Umhlanga. If I was in the Western Cape, I'll say it's not only the fathers in Hermanus, but also for the fathers in Zwelihle. If I was in the Eastern Cape, not only the fathers in Malabar, but also the fathers in PE on the beachfront, okay? So of all racial and socioeconomic groups, being able to provide was the single most important issue, ensuring access and entry into fatherhood. So as the focus groups happened, this is the feedback we got. Since provision and employment are intrinsically linked, for many participants, employment has become an entry and restrictive point for access to participation with their children. So if they didn't have resources and they didn't have money, there was kind of a social restriction, a family restriction, an access point. Also, the kind of social, if you like, stereotypes placed on a father that was not providing. Here we have the reflection on cultural phenomena. In many instances, being employed and being able to provide was the only way to actively participate as a father. So the notion of provision was upheld by cultural values like paying inhlawulo or labola, cultural and social definitions of gender roles. Now, in our context in the church, we might not be so impacted by inhlawulo and lobola, but how we preach and teach about fatherhood needs to be broadened. Can a father who's a provider not only be a provider with the money, but be a provider with love, with compassion, being present? In a time of COVID-19 and not having access to cash and well-being of money resources, can a father be present in other ways? Okay, and as we preach and teach, these are the areas that we can start to broaden how we preach and teach for our fathers and the consideration of our fathers and their families. The legal sphere, in the case of disputes, we find a lot of the time that when there's legal issues that are going on, for example, in divorce, at the end of the day, children end up with their moms. Children end up being with their moms and dislocated from their fathers. The family by extended family members and the mother herself and on an individual level. So we see the separation, that it's not only just monetary, but it's also in the cultural values, the societal issues. Think about gender roles. If we say, well, a father does this and a mother does that. So if a father is unemployed and he's at home, can't he help with the cooking, the cleaning, the washing of dishes? Especially if you have economic hard times. So some of us, we can't have maybe domestic workers or domestic help. The pick up and drop off of children at schools. Let's begin to think about that as we think upon fatherhood. On a personal level, fathers are unable to provide, feel ashamed, worthless, inadequate, lack of self-respect, believe that their families and communities don't respect them. So there's this real issue of a social pressure that if you're not present, the father himself or the man himself feels dislocated and disrespected and feels the gaze of a community that doesn't see him as worthy. It also causes stress and pressure and results in them losing authority within the household, as the inability to provide prevents them from being decision makers within the family. So there seems to be a location that if you don't bring the moolah and you're not a provider, you can't even have access to say how your children should live, how they should be brought up. However, despite the belief that being able to provide was equated to being able to father, participants felt strongly that they wanted fathers who were involved, engaged, and participated in their daily lives. They wanted their fathers to be more than providers. Now, when we engaged with children who were reflecting on their fathers and the impact of their fathers, some people just wish, as that picture says, just for that call, as daddy calls, just to see the call from daddy. And as we think upon it today, what does presence look like versus my provision? My presence could be a lot more than my provision. And children, right across the category of children and youth and adult children, are saying, no, there's an importance of my father being involved, engaged, and participated. Now, what brings into question, what about fathers who are actually present, but they are uninvolved and disengaged? This can also be another reality that we can consider, where fathers are present, but they're too busy on their cell phones, where fathers are present, but they're too busy socializing and doing other things. They're not really present with the emotional well-being of their children. I mean, in the 1970s, when I was born, my dad was not allowed to be anywhere near the hospital. Well, he wasn't allowed to be at the hospital, but not in the ward or connection. I don't know when was the first moment he may have held me. My time, forward when my children were born in around about 2007, and that's when I started fathering. When my daughter in 2007, I was right there in the ward, in the room, not just in the ward. When our baby was born, I was one of the first to hold my child and then bring my child to a mother. And I'd like you to think about this. Kangaroo care is the way that we talk about it. But when a father feels the connection to his child, this is important. For many fathers, they are even dislocated from that. Here's the broadened hemisphere, and you've heard about some of it already, but if we think about it, there's cultural factors, names and surnames, and if you don't pay la bola, then you can't have the name of the child. There are issues of systems and religion. Now, I'd like us to think upon that deeply, because we as ministers of the gospel, some of our theology might need to be critiqued. If we've been teaching headship, can you imagine a father that's thinking headship means ek is die baas van die plaas? And if his headship kind of connotation means that he must be in charge, he needs to have authority, but what if he doesn't have money that gives him authority? We might need to talk about, hey, your well-being as a father is a servant of your family. So our religious systems, our legal systems, our government systems, the unemployment and lack of ability to provide on the right side of the wheel. Think about interpersonal relationships. A lot of the time, some of us have replicated the systems of how we were fathered. Now we've inherited that kind of fathering style and we go on. I'm clear that some of the things my dad did was amazing. But even my dad, as we've been talking together, he's been encouraging me to think critically about what I can do right now with my interpersonal relations with my children. I don't have to always be the authoritarian in the family. What about me being the one that hugs and loves and holds? So there are these realities. The environmental reality, and we can't negate that. The historical reality of migrant workers. Many fathers throughout South Africa, even now, are living away from their children. Their children live sometimes 6 hours away from them in a different part of the country. So fathers are not present. They're not there, all right? Let me take it back to my personal story this morning. And as we are listening together, these are things that I picked up from my dad. Fathers matter because they actually do. Dad made life full of experiences with the little he had. It wasn't about the money. It was about dad's connection to making things happen. And I remember when my mom would work on a Saturday morning at Standard Bank, he would take my brother and I to what was like a bush place, but it became our play area with a ball or with some bikes and just a half loaf of bread, some cold meats and some cold drink. Not a lot of money in hand, but made it an experience. We remember those experiences. Dad taught us about the basics of sport, music, and even reading. His presence with us he was our first coach. He was our first teacher. Dad has been present, active, and making a positive influence in my life, my parenthood, and my fatherhood. Caring for my dear covenant life partner and my wife, doing good by my children. My dad is there right now saying to me, son, don't flop it. So when we think about GBVF, fathers and men of honor can be the ones that start to disrupt gender-based violence and femicide in our community. Have a look at that text this morning that comes out of Ephesians. Let me just get this chat box out my way. Out of Ephesians, parents, and the GNB kind of gives us inclusive language. I know that in our synod, we've already been stretching that where we can talk about God, not just God as Father. But GNB, the Good News Bible, talks about parents do not greet your children in such a way as to make them angry. Instead, bring them up with Christian discipline and instruction. When mothers are holding it all together without the presence of fathers that should be there, not only at the home, present, but presently active and making a positive impact, then we see a better society. Dear brothers and sisters, we believe fathers matter because they actually do, can bring a reality of change in our communities and our societies, the way we instruct and guide our children. Here's a video that we'll cross over to now by Daniel Beatty. And as you watch Daniel Beatty's video, I want you to think about children who have not had their fathers in their life, okay? And what have you noticed? Okay, so children that you are pastoring or children that are in your family circles that have had their fathers and children that have not had their fathers in their lives. And what have you noticed? Let's watch Daniel Beatty at this time.
As a boy, I shared a game with my father. Played it every morning till I was 3. He would knock on my door and I'd pretend to be asleep till he got right next to the bed. Then I would get up and jump into his arms. Good morning, Papa. And my papa, he would tell me that he loved me. We shared a game, knock, knock. Until that day when the knock never came. And my mama takes me on a ride past cornfields on this never-ending highway till we reach a place of high, rusty gates. A confused little boy, I enter the building carried in my mama's arms. Knock, knock. We reach a room of windows and brown faces. Behind one of the windows sits my father. I jump out of my mama's arms and run joyously towards my papa's, only to be confronted by this window. I knock, knock, trying to break through the glass, trying to get to my father. I knock, knock as my mama pulls me away before my papa even says a word. And for years he has never said a word. And so 25 years later, I write these words for the little boy in me who still awaits his papa's knock. Papa, come home, because I miss you. Miss you waking me up in the morning and telling me you love me. Papa, come home, because there's things I don't know, and I thought maybe you could teach me how to shave, how to dribble a ball, how to talk to a lady, how to walk like a man. Papa, come home, because I decided a while back I want to be just like you, but I'm forgetting who you are. And 25 years later, a little boy cries, and so I write these words and try to heal and try to father myself, and I dream up a father who says the words my father did not. Dear son, I'm sorry I never came home. For every lesson I failed to teach, hear these words. Shave in one direction with strong, deliberate strokes to avoid irritation. Dribble the page with the brilliance of your ballpoint pen. Walk like a god, and your goddess will come to you. No longer will I be there to knock on your door, so you must learn to knock for yourself. Knock, knock down doors of racism and poverty that I could not. Knock, knock on doors of opportunity for the lost brilliance of the black men who crowd these cells. Knock, knock with diligence for the sake of your children. Knock, knock for me, for as long as you are free, these prison gates cannot contain my spirit. The best of me still lives in you. Knock, knock with the knowledge that you are my son, but you are not my choices. Yes, we are our father's sons and daughters, but we are not their choices. But despite their absences, we are still here, still alive, still breathing, with the power to change this world, one little boy and girl at a time. Knock, knock, who's there? We are.
Well, I hope this morning that if we had to say to the Eastern Cape Synod, knock, knock, and people reply, who's there, that we can declare, we are. Because in many ways, ministers, churches, and pastors, we are the ones that are closing the gaps in our society on a range of issues, even on the issue of fathers that are absent, fathers that are not positively and actively present. Friends, there's another question I put in there. As we watch Daniel Beatty, reflect with me now, consider what we notice of children with their father present and active. Now remember, that's important. Present and active. And children who don't have fathers who are actively and positively present. Okay? So there's this clarification, because some fathers, if they're present, it's sad to say, but some fathers are negatively present. Okay? But what does our society begin to look like when our fathers are positively present? So let's just add in our reflections as we build this dialogue together. And remember, you can always go to the 3 dots in the chat box and save it, because it might even impact some of our notes and our preaching over the next months as we listen and learn together. So please add your thoughts. We leave some time open. And I'd also like to, at this time, take about 3 minutes. So those of you that are tired of texting and you want your voice to be heard, and we'd like to hear your voice as well, please add in your thoughts as you've watched and you've listened. From the Daniel Beatty, it might be a little bit more than that. You're welcome to unmute. Those of us that are listening, we can do both end. We'll have some folk that are chatting in the chat box and adding their reflections about what we notice of fathers when they are active and positively present, and what we notice when they are not, all right? And then some of us can unmute our mic. So let's listen for a while to our friends and colleagues as we think together. Feel free to give your voice responses as well as your chat box responses. Anybody this morning? And we're close to our close now. Thank you, David.
Op 'n stadium het hulle Seth het hulle navorsing gedoen in die Wes-Kaap by een van die hoërskoolkoshuise, en toe het hulle vir die hoërskoolkinders gevra wie is vir hulle 'n belangrike rolmodel in hulle lewe. En daar was 'n hele klomp van daai kinders wat gesê het hulle pa. Maar interessante ene is dat 'n hele klomp van daai jong seuns het gesê dat hulle vriend se pa was vir hulle 'n goeie rolmodel.
Wow. Wow. So the reality is that even when our fathers in that area may not be there, we're watching a social father, a father of another, that is actually taking up the role. And I must say that too. And David, 100%, I'm with you. My dad, I have 3 friends that have never grown up with a father. Well, their fathers have been away because of death, because of dislocation. And so when I turned 18, 19, I met these friends through Youth for Christ as a young missionary. And I had my dad, but Bushlet Lamini, Quentin Pretorius, and Olifile Masangani didn't have their father. And my father, when they will even go and visit my dad today without visiting me, because my father has become that father figure. So spot on. Thank you, David, for that beautiful reflection of what happened in that school. Anyone else? You know, so the important role of father figures, even when it's not my father, could be someone else. Thank you from Oos-Londen. Afwesige pa, kinders met bitterheid, rebelsheid. Okay, when the father is not there, there's bitterness and rebellion. Anyone else who would like to unmute or say something in these next minutes? Marius and Oom Van and Oom Marius, anything from your long years of service? Please unmute. We'd like to hear your voice. Thank you.
Dankie. Die belangrikste is dat jou kinders is deel van jou hart. En waar hulle gaan met hulle geliefdes, neem hulle 'n stukkie van jou saam. Dis hartseer dat ouers net bestaan, maar nie 'n liefdesband en koneksie met die kinders het nie. En kinders kan nie alleen op hulle eie voortgaan in 'n groot menswêreld in sonder die ondersteuning van hetsy die ma of die pa, as die een of die ander nie daar is nie, maar is 'n gesamentlike span. En ouers moet daarvoor sorg dat kinders goeie groot mense word en volwasse in die lewe kan optree.
Wow, thank you, sir, for those beautiful words. The connection of our parents to our children. Children require that connection so that we can go into the big world out there. Ons ander oom wat daar is, just to respect our elders daar.
Dit is baie belangrik dat jy as vader moet 'n voorbeeld wees vir jou kinders, want as hulle raak groot volgens jou voorbeeld en as jy 'n swak beeld het, gaan jy 'n swak beeld van hulle vorm en hulle kan dan sukkel in die lewe om voort te gaan en so sal die ding al slegter raak. Ek het die ondervinding gehad dat sonder dat ek agterkom dat daar sal groot mense dan nog steeds opsien na wat hulle in my sien as 'n ouer persoon en vir hulle die voorbeeld te stel. En as jy nie 'n voorbeeld kan stel nie, kan jy nie verwag dat jou kind op die regte pad kom nie.
Yes, thank you, Oom Van. We gotta be there and present and to move our children in the right direction, right? We also want to be sure that we're not landing Father's Matter to negate the role of women who are serving. But our mothers and our sisters right across the community can't do this on their own. If we think about ending gender-based violence, if we think about bringing a revival and healing to our society, we need the voices of women. So I see Ingrid Boschhoff right there, and it'd be good to hear your voice. I know you've been listening and active. Give us some reflections from you, Ingrid. Please unmute your mic. Down at the bottom of your screen. Thank you.
Ons het nou gepraat, ek self het 'n pa gehad wat nie altyd daar was nie, maar ek het dit op 'n laat ouderdom eers besef. 40 het ek eers agtergekom, maar wat het ek regtig gemis van my pa, omdat hy nooit aanwesig was. Hy moes met werk baie weggaan. Maar so baie keer dan ons kinders soek daai standvastigheid en dan spaar nie daar nie en dan gaan soek hulle dit op ander plekke en dan loop dinge verkeerd.
Thank you, Ingrid. And so we're also going to have to be educating. Like some of the times our fathers are traveling. Let me share this with you. COVID-19 has shown us a rise of divorce. And a lot of the time, underpinning that divorce, fathers who were forced to be at home because they couldn't travel, couldn't manage. So they became irregular in their behavior. They started shouting, screaming, fighting, and even beating up on their wives and their children. Over the last year, not only in South Africa, in COVID-19, right throughout the world, the divorce rates have gone up. So men need a new way of processing their manhood, processing what's going on with them. And we have to start talking about it in our communities. It can't only be dominees that have emotional intelligence, pastors who are men. We need men that are there in the bar having their birkies, but thinking about women in a different way. We need men and fathers to be men and fathers of honor. So thank you, Ingrid, for that beautiful response. I'm coming to my close, and I'd like to close like this. I want to thank you for your attention. And I know that it's not easy being on PowerPoint, but I hope I haven't given you death by PowerPoint, that you feel blessed. We underpin our campaigns with values. So here's 3 values that underpin this campaign. A positive presence, like Ingrid said. Even though a father was there, she had to ask, what did she miss? And she was aware that as a father pulls away, a lot of things become difficult in our lives. But a positive presence is one of the key values. Jesus was positively present. In the Bible, we can talk about the presence of God. So positive presence, empathy, and responsibility. 3 values that underpin this campaign. We want this to be a faith-inspired campaign that captures the imagination of our communities, of our churches, of our families, of our children, of our mothers, of our grandparents, of our dads, of men. And this is a hope, if I can say it like that. It's a hope that we have for what we are trying to do, okay? So let me just cross off and close off with this hope. It is our hope to see men and fathers making a positive impact and taking an active role in the lives of children, in our families, in our communities, in our local to global, everyday world. We are hopeful to see men and fathers join women in the role of parenting, leading and guiding our children, our families and communities. The active role of men and fathers may be able, now pay attention to this one. The active role of men and fathers may be able to right some of the wrongs that we see in our world today. There are many wrongs in our world today. We're not saying that fathers have to become the dominating force in the family, no. But their presence, men of honor, fathers of honor, as we rear men of honor and fathers of honor, we can see whole and healed and well-established communities for a greater future. Here's my closing picture. Reverend Dani said I should show you one where I'm looking all bow-tied up. So I hope you like that one, Oom Fan and Oom Marius. Hope you give your authority with a thumbs up for that one. But here it is, friends. Please, we want your details and your communication to be sent through to us so that we can have your contact, so that you have information about the national resources of Heartlines on a whole range of resources, including Fathers Matter. Also, let's meet via Zoom. Let's do WhatsApp. Let's do Google. If you at your church want us through Dani and the Eastern Cape Synod to have a conversation like this in your community, remember, we don't have to do it in the church service. We can have a time of connection, coffee shop catch up with some men in the community. Let's start talking to men. Let's start talking to moms and fathers. And we'd love to be of service to you to make this conversation of hashtag Fathers Matter, because they actually do. And we want to work with you all. And thank you for your time. Thank you for attention. And God bless. Dani, back to you.